Chapter 3 Puppet on a String. Market Valley should have been bustling with laughter and life, but was eerily silent. Herman felt a chill run down his spine. All that remained were storm-torn tents and scattered wares, like the remnants of a battlefield. Vendors and villagers stood petrified with faces frozen in terror. Everyone had been turned to stone, except for one mysterious figure that lurked among the statuesque figures. Herman recognized the enigmatic man.
It's Billbeard the puppet vendor. He's not made of stone. Maybe he can help us,
he declared in a hushed tone.
You're right. It is Billbeard,
Leffen said, peering through the forest of petrified villagers.
I'd recognize that wyvern cat and crazy cloak anywhere. Maybe he knows what happened.
Or maybe he's the one involved. What if he was the one that cast the spell causing this stone curse?
Gifford added, looking down at his own cursed arm.
Let's run up and tackle him.
That's crazy talk. He is just a puppet vendor.
Herman interrupted quietly.
You're jumping to conclusions. Perhaps he shares our plight and is just as scared as we are.
Or perhaps he's playing us like his puppets. What if he does have some hidden power?
Gifford said.
Hidden power? Really? What if this cursed storm isn't real? What if it is some elaborate practical joke that you devised? Or perhaps I've fallen asleep reading one of my adventure stories.
Gifford snorted and used his stone arm to thwack Herman in the back of the head.
Ouch!
Herman rubbed the spot where Gifford's blow had landed.
Does that feel like a dream to you?
Okay, but if by chance he is the bad guy in this story, confronting him could put us in danger.
I'll do whatever you think is best, Herman,
Leffen said. Gifford looked at Herman expectantly until he caved.
We're not going to tackle him, though. We'll just follow him,
Herman said, his hushed voice resolute.
If he is innocent, we will need his help. If he is guilty, we will need to be prepared.
With silent steps, they began following Billbeard through the labyrinth of stone villages, abandoned tents, and piles of discarded wares.
Remind me again why we think he is guilty?
Herman asked quietly.
Because he is lurking.
Gifford answered his older brother as if he were a small child. Herman observed Gifford and Leffen's own peculiar and secretive movement as they skulked behind an overturned cart.
Isn't that what we are doing?
We're only lurking because he is lurking,
Gifford retorted. He peeked around the edge of the cart, his green eyes narrowing as he watched Billbeard move through the desolate market.
He is the lurker. We are the lurkies.
I don't think those are even words,
Herman replied.
Besides, it's still morning. Don't most people do their lurking at night?
Shh!
Gifford's eyes fixated on Billbeard casually strolling through the petrified crowd. The puppet vendor was not affected physically by the curse, but it also appeared he was not emotionally affected.
Look at him. He has to be the bad guy.
Herman frowned doubtfully.
I don't think so. Billbeard seemed to share an interest in literature with me. He liked my library of books. Surely, he can't be that bad.
So, he likes books that don't mean nothing,
Scoffed Gifford, rubbing his stone arm.
He probably likes spell books, the kind that turn people into stone.
Let's just keep following him and looking for my parents,
Leffen interjected, soothing the tension between the brothers. As they searched for Leffen's parents through the petrified crowd and watched Billbeard from afar, Herman felt conflicted. He recalled the way Billbeard's eyes lit up when he spoke of literature. Could such a man really be responsible for the stone curse? The trio trailed Billbeard through the open market field, ducking behind stalls and statues. It was difficult to sneak while the late morning sun threatened to reveal their location and cause the stone villagers to cast deceptive shadows. A sudden gust of wind rustled the remnants of banners and streamers, a mournful whisper that sent shivers down their spine. In that instant, a piece of rolled-up parchment slipped from one of Billbeard's May-coat pockets. It fell to the ground, unnoticed by the puppet vendor.
Look!
Gifford said, pointing at the fallen parchment.
That might be a clue. Herman, quick, grab it before he notices.
Wait until he's gone,
Leffen advised. They watched as Billbeard left Market Valley, crossed Resolute Bridge, and entered Narrowway Forest.
Come on, he's getting away.
Gifford said. When Bilbeard was safely out of sight, Herman hesitantly approached the parchment. His fingers trembled as he picked up the mysterious paper.
My parents!
Leffen suddenly exclaimed. She pointed at a tent adorned with musical notes, its fabric torn but still recognizable. Her eyes widened as she stumbled forward, hope mingling with dread. Without examining the parchment further, Herman put it inside of his satchel. He and Gifford exchanged worried glances before following closely behind their friend. As they reached the tent, they saw a heart-wrenching sight. Mr. and Mrs. Quirken, Leffen's parents, stood frozen in stone, playing a melody that would never be heard. Mr. Quirken clutched his violin, while Mrs. Quirken held her flute, both forever stuck in a moment of harmony. Leffen reached out a trembling hand, brushing her fingers against her mother's cold, stony face.
Oh, Mama. Papa.
She whispered, tears streaming down her face.
I wish I could feel your embrace just one more time.
She fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Herman knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder.
Left one.
He said softly.
I'm so sorry. You're not alone. I'm here. It may be hard to believe the way you're feeling right now will change. It will get better. The Lord is faithful. He will not allow more than you can bear. He'll provide a way for you to endure it.
She sniffled and wiped her tears.
Sometimes a person just needs a good cry to let go of all their emotions, you know?
She said, wiping away more tears. Herman nodded, recalling the pain he felt when he realized his father wasn't coming back.
Crying is all right for a time, but eventually you still need to figure out what to do.
I understand. We'll find a way to bring them back. Left one, I promise.
I'm sorry. Look at me. I'm such a mess.
No need to apologize. Life is messy. Sometimes it's not right, even painful at times. You'll be all right. Give it time.
Thank you, Herman.
She replied, her voice thick with emotion.
Usually, I'm the one offering encouragement.
Drawing a deep breath, she pushed down the despair that threatened to consume her. Her naturally optimistic nature refused to let her dwell on the tragedy any longer.
Let's find a way to save them and the rest of these poor souls.
Leffen said, rising to her feet and wiping her tear-streaked face.
What was that paper that Bilbeard dropped? Maybe it has the information we need to lift the curse.
Maybe it's a page from one of Bilbeard's spell books.
Gifford said.
Unroll it. Let's find out.
Leffen urged. Herman complied. His fingers slid along the edges of the parchment as he carefully unrolled it. Herman's storm grey eyes widened in awe.
Look, it's a map.
Herman said as he held the parchment up to the sunlight. The detailed map depicted their location and shimmered with ink that shifted and flowed.
It looks magical.
Leffen exclaimed.
Seems so.
Gifford said, admiring the map with an appraising eye.
Maybe we could sell it.
Wait.
Herman whispered. He noticed a small twinkling star on the parchment. It floated like a firefly above the drawing of Narrowway Forest. It seemed to be pointing in the direction Bilbeard had gone.
It's leading us to him.
Exciting! Let's follow it. It'll be like a quest. Herman, we'll be heroes like in your books.
Leffen suggested encouragingly. Her optimistic tone had returned.
I'll do what I can, but I'm no hero.
Herman admitted.
I'm just an innkeeper. I'm just Herman.
No hero? Come now.
Leffen said as she tapped her flute against the ground.
Remember when you climbed Big Oak to rescue Mrs. Thistleton's cat?
I do remember. I also remember all of the scratches I received coming down the tree.
Herman winced at the memory, still able to feel the sting of the cat's claws. Leffen leaned forward.
Herman, You were so brave that day.
With a determined nod, he tightened the straps of his satchel. His confidence bolstered. As they resumed their pursuit, the map's cartography changed effortlessly, mirroring their surroundings like a reflection on a still pond. Herman marveled at its enchanting power.
Such a peculiar thing.
Lefwen mused. Her warm brown eyes danced with curiosity and amazement.
A map that always changes to show our location.
In their pursuit, the trio ventured further east. The magical map seemed to have a mind of its own, twisting and reshaping the lines on the parchment like a living thing. They could see Resolute Bridge and narrow way forest depicted before their eyes. The blue star on the map danced tantalizingly beyond. Herman felt a twinge of apprehension at the prospect of crossing the bridge. His adventurous spirit was tempered by an innate sense of responsibility, and he felt they were stepping into unknown territory. Herman swallowed his fear and apprehension. He led the group across Resolute Bridge, the wind tugging at their clothes. The trees of Narrowway Forest swayed gracefully around them, their slender limbs dancing to the rhythm of an unseen orchestra. As they ventured further into the forest, Gifford suddenly piped up, his green eyes gleaming with ambition.
When we save everyone from this curse and get back to the Pilgrim's Rest, I have a brilliant idea. You have your books, and I have my insect collection. We could rename the inn Books and Bugs.
Gifford spread out his arms as if holding up a sign.
That'll be our niche. It will make the inn unique. Maybe bring in more customers.
Is this really the time to discuss business practices, Gifford?
Herman sighed, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of Bilbeard. He smiled at his younger brother's relentlessness. He knew that despite Gifford's mischief and laziness, he did care about the inn and their future together.
All right.
Herman conceded.
Once we've solved this mystery and saved our village, we'll work on making the Pilgrim's Rest Inn the best it can be.
Don't you mean making Books and Bugs the best it can be?
We'll figure that out later.
When they emerged from the shadows of Narrowway Forest, Herman, Lefwen and Gifford found themselves standing atop a gentle hill overlooking Port City. The tang of salty sea air filled their nostrils. The mid-afternoon sun danced on the waves with a golden shimmer. As they gazed down at the hub, Herman noticed something odd.
It's weird that there are no people,
he said. The streets were deserted. No villagers, sailors, fishermen, or merchants.
I told you.
Gifford said.
Everybody went to the festival.
As they ventured further into the city, Lefwen's keen eyes spotted Bilbeard boarding a ship at the docks.
Look!
Lefwen said urgently. Her arm shot out, pointing towards a ship adorned with a sail bearing the image of a red fish.
There's Bilbeard.
Herman squinted, making out the figure of the enigmatic man who was unaware of the trio's watchful gaze. As Bilbeard untied the ship from the pier, the tension in Herman's chest knotted.
Quick! He's drifting away. After him.
Gifford urged, breaking into a run towards the docks. Determined to confront the puppet vendor, they hurried down the hill. The trio moved along the docks between abandoned cargo crates and barrels. As they approached the waterfront, Gifford's gaze fell upon a small abandoned sailing skiff nestled among the larger vessels. The companion was painted in elegant script on its hull, inviting them to step aboard.
Let's take this one to catch Bilbeard. It looks fast.
Gifford proposed, already beginning to untie the ropes.
Absolutely not.
Herman protested, horrified at the thought of stealing.
Gifford, we can't just take someone else's boat.
The sight of the skiff bobbing up and down made his stomach churn and his knees weak.
Besides, we don't know the first thing about sailing.
He's getting away!
Gifford yelled above the waves. As the words left his lips, Bilbeard froze for a moment and turned around, his piercing gaze locking onto Herman's. A mixture of surprise and recognition flashed across his face. Bilbeard raised a hand to shield his eyes from the sun, leaning forward as if to confirm what he was seeing.
Plainly,
he called out, his voice tinged with something between confusion and anger, or possibly concern.
Go home. Don't follow me if you and your friends know what's good for you.
Without another word, Bilbeard spun on his heel and disappeared from view behind the ship's tall mast. The ship continued to drift further away. The red fish on its sail bellowed like a crimson taunt as it disappeared into the distance.
He's practically dared us to follow him. Let's take that skiff already.
Gifford pointed at the companion. Herman hesitated, his heart pounding within his chest. He glanced at Lefwyn, seeking reassurance from her gentle gaze.
We can't let Bilbeard slip away, not without trying.
All right.
Herman conceded, his piercing grey eyes fixated on the shrinking silhouette of Bilbeard's ship. His heart raced, torn between fear and the weight of responsibility. He could almost feel the pages of one of his adventure books come to life around him, but the stakes were all too real.